Hey, welcome everyone. This is John Ryan. I am here in the house to start the show. Thanks for everybody coming in. We haven't seen Tori Coker in a while. What's going on? We got Max on record, of course, and Wyatt Chapman. Glad to see you guys are here. It's Friday afternoon, August the 27th, 2021, and game time in the NFL preseason is fast approaching, and as many of you guys probably already know, and probably already went over and bought it because it was free. A 5%er I released today, and it's a total in tonight's card. And these are the plays. I cannot, act like a jerk and promise that this thing is going to win, but these are about as strong as they get. And over the course of a season, they will produce significant profits. Individually, I just don't know with any degree of certainty whether this is going to win, but I'm confident. It's all about the season, guys and gals. It's don't evaluate any professional sports bettor on one game. This game, I love it. I love it. I bet it, but I bet it at a 5% amount, and that's where it's staying. I never get crazy with doing 10% or something like that because that's just a recipe for disaster. So. That is it. If you haven't gotten it, you can get it for free over at sportsmemo.com. You'd go to sm.buzz and /JR. So it's sm.buzz/JR, and you'll see it. And it's a 5%er. It's the strongest total I released this year in the NFL exhibition. I'm on an 83.3% win streak. And last year I was number one at Sports Memo in the NFL, hitting 65.8% against the spread for the entire season, and I'm 18-5 against the spread in the Super Bowl. So yeah, I had a couple lucky wins in the Super Bowl, but nevertheless, that is the record. College football has been outstanding as well, not quite as good as NFL last year, and the special deal that's going right now at Sports Memo, you'll see it scrolling at the bottom of the page here. Right now, you can read it. It's you can get my entire NFL season, including the playoffs and Super Bowl, for only $3.99 right now. That's $400 off the regular price of $7.99 for the NFL, and we're throwing in college football the entire season. So now there's really little reason not to get on board and let me start working for you. And I can show you personally what 27 years of experience can do for you. So again, sm.buzz/JR, 5%er tonight, and take advantage like many of you have, and I'm very grateful for that. Get the $3.99 full season subscription for college football and the NFL. It's like getting, it's literally like getting $1,100 off the dual price for the college football and NFL seasons, and I'm glad to do it. The more people we have as customers, the better. Even if it's at a lower price, I just want to be able to try and help and teach and have fun with this. And yeah, if at the end of the season we rub some nickels together, man, that's fantastic. So we usually start out with some. There's Meathead shocking. What's he doing? Shocking the world with his low round today. Yeah, Spieth was okay. I mean, he had to make some birdies, in his last 12 holes. I don't know if he did, but I'm going to bring it up right now. My DraftKings lineups are I like where they're at. You truly don't want to be, leading or even in the top 50. After the second day. The winner almost always comes from behind. And here the PGA Tour leaderboard for the BMW in Owens Mills, Maryland. Bryson, look at that, 60. Woo. 60. This course is 7,550 yards, guys. I mean, they just tear it up. Length is nothing anymore. I think there's going to be a day where the U.S. Open will approach that 8,000 mark just to keep these guys at par And that's the goal of the U.S. Open always. But Patrick Cantlay, as you guys probably knew from the show this week, was one of my guys that I picked to win. The Nick Borman show, I believe, is when I said that he shot 63 today. And I thought that would be the low round. And that's 9 under. And, it's birdieing half the holes. Wow. And I'm not surprised Sung Jae Im is third here, 12 under, 65. Sergio, I have him in a couple lineups, and just to read, let's put up this little graphic I think I still have, and you guys can see who I put in the player pool. Now this is what I'm going to do for the foreseeable future, even though we're at the end of the golf season. It starts right up again, and I'm going to create pools like this where you can take these names and create lineups. So that these names were the ones that came up the highest on my models. Now, when I create my lineup, sometimes I don't use these players. This is just off of a very objective model that is the fundamental root of my lineups. But then it goes through optimization and a bunch of other stuff before I really get completely done with it. But as you can see, Sergio is on that board, and he was ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Abraham Answer's doing pretty well. As Max on Record said, Jordan Spieth is not. So let's check and see where he's at. But on a course like this, guys, I mean, anything is possible. I mean, you shoot a 60 and you're right back in it. John Rahm was tied for the lead. He's shooting 3 under, so that would be a 69. But he's only on 10. But he's basically getting lapped. So he drops from a tie for the lead to tie for 5th. But he has a long way to go. So let's see where he finishes. McIlroy definitely got lapped today, shooting a 2 under 70. If your first number started with a 7 today, you lost big time ground. Even the guys at the bottom of the list here, Alex Noren shot a 66 after a 71 yesterday. He's at 7 under. This is a real shootout. I didn't see this coming like this. But we had a lot of rain here in the East. Maverick McNeely shot 70 today. Matt Jones 70. Harris English 70. Justin Thomas, one of the best in the world, 71. He has not figured out this golf course as of yet. And being at -5, he's going to have to go like 63. And that's not... I guess it can be done. You can't rule anything out when it's a shootout. Mickelson is at -5, T27. He's on through 8. So, he could ramp this thing up to -10. Lee Westwood, he's on 17, -4, T38. And you got to remember, these guys are trying to get T30 or better in the world golf ranking. So these scores are constantly updated, the rankings, literally hole by hole, so that the players know exactly where they are at all times. Oosthuizen has not fared well here. He's 58 out of the 70, but he's in. He's in Atlanta for sure. Let's see, Colin Morikawa. What has happened to him? And again, it's that when somebody that is young wins a major, let alone his second, there's all kinds of appearances that have to be made. All kinds of demands are put on your time. You don't practice as much. And the fatigue from doing all these appearances is obviously shown. And I think that's what Colin Morikawa is going through. Because he's 3 over and dead last in this field. So that's pretty much all I have here. I did want to share one of my lineups with you guys. Let's see here. There we go. The one here is 73rd out of 800. So we're winning a whopping $10 on this one. I have Tony Mejia. He's 400 through 10. Patrick Cantlay tied for second place by himself, 15 under. Answer is 10 under. He's through 11. So who knows how that's going to finish. Paul Casey tied for 14th, -8 with back-to-back 68s. Harold Varner III, T18, -7 through 15. That's pretty good for him. And Andrew Wise, -9. He's through 15. And looks like 6 under for the day. So I like where that one is. That one could rise up to some pretty good levels. And then the other one, I have 5 lineups. I have Shoffley -8, Cantley in this one, Answer in this one, Kim, who is +1 through 9, so that was not such a good pick. Lee Westwood, okay, and Lucas Glover is hard to see. It looks like minus 9. So that one was a good one because he was like $6,200. So it's a lot of fun. But the Shambo, we have to see for Max on record just what his round was like here. So round 2 starts out birdie, birdie, par, eagle, birdie, par, birdie, birdie, par for a 29. So he's 7 under at the turn. That's ridiculous. And then on the back, he goes par, birdie, birdie, par, birdie, par, eagle, par, par. Wow. He could have shot 59. Because 18 is gettable. And it looks like he did have a putt for it. Yep. Yep, he definitely had a putt for it. In fact, it was a short putt. Wow. I have here, I didn't see this, I have here that he had basically like a 6-footer. 5 or 6-footer for the 59. He must have missed it. Wow. Missed the green on 17, but made a 17 feet 2 inch putt. I don't know if that was a make or not. But the eagle on 16, 345 yard drive into barely the right rough, and then on the green with a 252 yard shot and made the putt. So that's pretty remarkable. That is pretty remarkable. So let me get rid of this diagram here. I do have a lot of other things going on here too. Again, what's scrolling down there on the bottom. I don't do well with hype, but I'm trying my best to hype this because I have had 7 consecutive really good years in football, college football and NFL combined, and that's why Sports Memo is doing this so that everybody can get all the plays. And I think we figured out that at the end of the day, at the end of the season, the package, each play will cost probably less than $1. So as you guys know, a 5%er is at least $29 alone. The 4-unit ones are between 19 and 24. So you add up those over the course of the weekend, and you play one weekend doing that, and it's probably about 30% of the cost of it'd be at least that. Of getting this subscription for $3.99. So NFL $400 savings, and then you're basically getting a gift of $800 by getting the college football season for free. Let's take a quick look at before my buddies show up here. So this is San Diego versus the Angels tonight, and these two teams have really basically vanished from any playoff, especially the Angels. That's been done for a while. You can't win when your best guy is Mike Trout and unable to play because of the surgery that he had. But he would be close to returning, I believe. But seriously, for what? It just would be an unnecessary chance. But the Angels were truly embarrassed yesterday in Camden Yards in Baltimore, Maryland, by those Orioles, who had lost a ton of games in a row. The Orioles won the 3-game series over the Angels, losing the first game, but winning the last two rather convincingly. And the Angels now have lost 5 of the last 6. Even worse, the Padres have lost 8 of 9 and got swept at home by the Dodgers, who is, if you listened to the show yesterday, we were saying it's just amazing how the depth that the Dodgers have. And with players like Kershaw coming off the injured list pretty soon, it gets really scary. They could get to a point. The only scary thing about the Dodgers is that 1-game play-in, should they not catch San Francisco. And the same thing for San Francisco. They don't deserve a 1-game play-in any more than the Dodgers would. But honestly, I mean, if the Dodgers would be the wild card and they win that first game, they could make mincemeat of the National League with what they have going on. I'm not taking anything away from San Francisco, certainly, but those two teams are definitely the best. But you put it all together for a healthy Dodgers squad. Bellinger is going to be on the bench for sure, and a couple other starters are going to be on the bench for sure when these guys come back. Don't forget, Mookie Betts is on this team. And when was the last time he played? I just can't even imagine the lineup. But it seems right now like the trends and the baseball gods are telling us that it's going to be the Yankees and the Dodgers, and that would certainly be fun. And if the season ended today, the Yankees would play the Red Sox for the play-in game, and wouldn't that be a blast? So it's starting to really get pretty exciting here. Now this betting system here, bet on home underdogs. The home dog was out hit by 10 or more hits in their previous game, and Baltimore had 15. The Angels had three hits against that kind of pitching. I mean, well, and our dogs' bullpen allowed at least 4 runs in their last game. Profitability is 36-18 for 67% on the money line. More importantly, plus 150 and a 62% ROI. So this is an outstanding system. The Angels had not declared a pitcher yet. They had a guy that they had recently gone from AA to AAA, Salt Lake City, and he was in my my database because I get it direct from the source, and then suddenly it was not there. So I don't know if it was a mistake by the people managing the database or what it was reported, but I know the transactions by the Angels did not have anything on this guy. So I guess we'll look at it after I do the second part of this. So all these parameters, if they occur after the All-Star break, are 17-9 for 65.4, plus 160, 62% ROI. I mean, just a truly outstanding system here to follow. And it doesn't require much effort. You don't need a database for a lot of these to write down the parameters, and then it's manual, it's menial labor, but when it makes this kind of money, isn't it worthwhile doing? That's what I used to do this all by hand, and now I don't. And honestly, if you get the subscription, then you won't have to do it by hand either. And that's one of the many reasons I'm here. So Wyatt, loading the scud on your PowerPoint pick, Pappy. It's good. But remember, the most important thing I can share with you guys every day is to do the 3, 4, 5%. I know there's going to be times where you're going to be hot, or my picks are going to be hot, and you're going to say, "Oh God, if I would have just had the guts to step it up a little bit, I would have made X." Well, you could have also had a disaster and gone 0 for 5, and then wondered how in the world you're going to recover from it. So it's really, really, really important, first and foremost, not to exceed that 5% level, whatever that is to you. A lot of people don't have bankroll set aside, but you have to figure out, at least in your head, what is the maximum amount that I'm willing to put at risk and lose. That's not going to change my life. That I really, really sucked that I lost that amount of money, but it's not going to affect how I live. It's not going to affect my relationships. It's not going to affect my marriage. It's not going to affect my my kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that is so, so darn important to drill home. And I don't mean to lecture, but that is number one. And then if we win, it is always nice to say, boy, I should have put 2 dimes on that one instead of 1. But it's not. You can't do that. Let's see who else here. Max on record. Cole spin rate is fixed somehow. Take the Yanks tonight. Well, full transparency. A lot of you guys bought my 5%er on baseball last night, and it was a great comeback by the Athletics. And I do believe I had the right side, even though the Yankees got off to a tremendous start, but then that was it until the ninth. So, hats off to the Yankees for winning 13 in a row. It's the most they've won in a franchise for the franchise in over 60 years. And keep in mind, 1927 Yankees team was called Murderous Row, and they did not win double digits win streak. In other words, I think the most they won was 9, and it actually might have been 8. But they did not win double digits in a row, and we know what the A's did in 2002, I believe it was. So when these teams get on a roll, it really can be anybody. But the Yankees were so bad in the beginning of the season, and we talked about it a lot, that they would get runners on base. Walk percentage as a team was outstanding. Maybe not outstanding. It was okay. It was above average. And they just couldn't score runs. They couldn't get guys home. And we did say that at some point during this season, that's going to change, and boy, has it. So it is something else to behold for sure. So I'm hoping Tony Finn and Rob Veno are going to join me here. They're recording a college football show for one of the networks, I think. I also do Sports Map Radio, which is a really, really nice show. It's real quick hitting, 15, 20 minutes with Bobby Kravitsky, and he's becoming a good friend. And then it's aired live on 196 different radio stations, so that gets the word out too. Real good stuff. Let's see what else I have here while we wait for those guys. Yeah, somebody in the chat room, I just changed it, but you wanted to see what I was drinking today. It's Centennial IPA. I think you can see that. Founders makes good IPAs, and I like the West Coast IPA recipe. That is by far my favorite. Let's see. Barry says Braves on the money line. Yeah, and that's San Francisco. Yeah, I can see that. The Giants are in a little bit of trouble. Gaussman is out, and they're going to have to try to, get through this. The one good thing is they have a day off coming up, which then they can go. They don't have to have a sub come in for that slot. They can use that position for the day off. It would have been Gaussman's day. So they do have a little bit of time here to work it out, which is, with the Dodgers 2.5 games back, or 2 games back now, I think. It's going to be down to the wire with that, with those two. And then in football, I believe this one is tomorrow night. So in this one, we have the Chargers versus Seattle. As we know, Herbert has not played a down in the preseason. Some of the teams in the preseason have done this. It's not the first year. They have not played any starters. But what it's done is it's allowed the backups now to get those important reps. So even if Seattle starts Russell Wilson, which will be his first snaps under center, and they also have their first round pick of this past draft and wide receiver D. Eskridge available. Apparently he's making his debut, but there's no chemistry between the two of them. Even in an exhibition game, there's got to be some kind of relationship where the quarterback knows where that wide receiver is going. The wide receiver knows when that quarterback's going to let it loose, and there won't be any of that. And Brandon Staley is a really big time defensive mind, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. I'm sure Rob and Tony Finn would. And he has put together a really deep defense. Now, of course, in the NFL, injuries can decimate any depth in a hurry. And of course, you don't wish that on anybody. However, it is a violent and sport. The collisions are unreal. So, with that said, even if they start if Seattle starts the starters, I don't think they'll go more than 2 series, and maybe even just 1. I can't imagine it going more than a half. I just think that would be just mind-blowing. So what we have here is a situation where the Chargers are not playing their starters, so that means they're bad. Well, they're not. They're not. They had 2 games already. They're 2-0 in those games without the starters. So they're feeling pretty good about themselves, and now they're plus 5.5, I saw last. And the way I would play this is simply 80% of your normal bet size. This would be a 4-unit play, or 4%, 3, 4, 5%. Again, we're doing the disciplined route. You would do 80% of that regular betting amount on the line, and then 20% on the money line. And if you sprinkle that money line like that, and there'll be times during the NFL you'll get plays from me that specifically lay out how I personally see to bet the game. You can always take the points and not do the combination bet. But over the course of the season, I've had this optimized so that there'll be times where we do 90% and 10%, 85%, 15%, 80 and 20 is the 3 possible outcomes. In more rare would be 75-25, but it can happen. So if you do that over the course of the season, it makes your bottom line better, and it produces an increased ROI than had you not. Of course, there's going to be times where if you do 80% and 20, and the team covers but doesn't win, you're only getting 60%. But it's the times that they do win outright, and I think this is a game the Chargers win. Even though it's a preseason game, all the research I've done, all the analytics point to the Chargers winning this game outright. So the angle here is betting on underdogs and pick coming off a game allowing 5.5 or fewer yards per pass attempt, facing an opponent that has thrown for 5.5 or fewer yards per pass attempt in 2 consecutive games and has earned a 41-17 against the spread record, good for 71% the last 15 NFL preseasons. Again, it's not rocket science, folks. It's right there in front of you. That is exactly the parameters. And as Tony Finn, there's a statistical term that measures how parameters work together. Are they meaningful? And we always use the absurd example that the Miami Dolphins are playing on the road and they're getting 7.5 points, and they go through the McDonald's drive-through. They are 8-1. Now, of course, we don't know that, but those parameters have nothing to do with each other. And many times in baseball, you can see angles that certain teams are, 12-2 against left-handed pitching on Fridays. Well, that doesn't really mean too much either because it's Fridays. Very rarely does a series start on a Friday. Thursday and Monday are the 2 more important days because majority of series start on those days. The last game of a series is also important, so that would be Sunday and Wednesday or Thursday. So, the first game of a series in baseball is an important day. But in football, whether a team plays on Saturday or Sunday is kind of irrelevant. So we have a 71% angle here supporting the Chargers. The predictive model expects the Chargers defense will hold Seattle passing attack, it's not much of an attack if they're only gaining 5 or fewer yards per attempt. But when Seattle has not gained more than 5 yards per pass attempt, they're 6-21 against the number. So that's one thing to watch in this game and see if the models come out right. Because there's, when these games are over, I love going through and saying where it was right, where it was wrong, where John Ryan was right, where I was wrong. And a lot of times, 4 of the 6 things can be wrong, but you win because the other 2 were so much better than what the predictions were that it overcame everything else. And then lastly, the Chargers are off a home loss, and over the last 15 seasons, they're 16-4 against the number for 80% coming off a home loss. So that is pretty meaningful in my opinion. So that's tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, and this would be a 4-unit play, 80% on the line, 20% sprinkle on the money line. And let's see if the Chargers can go 3-0 without playing a starter during the entire preseason. And here's my buddy, Mr. Rob Veno, stopping by to say hello.
I can't let you drink alone on a Friday, John.
Oh, I know. I've already showed him twice what I'm drinking. Centennial. Founders.
Who's been in? Anybody been in yet, or have you been solo?
No, you're the first. I've been running solo for
all right,
almost 45 minutes, and the people they're not leaving.
Well, why would they leave? Getting good information there.
Yeah, they're a bunch of them are getting my 5%er in the NFL game tonight.
Oh, very nice.
It's free. It's free.
Very, very nice.
Tony Finn said he was going to charge $1 for his 5%er, and I figured, well, I don't need the dollar.
Come on.
And then just. But yeah, I'm excited about this game tonight, and the timing couldn't have been better for it to pop up. And I'll tell you what it is after we go off the air. But we did have.
I was going to say he makes that $1 offer and then doesn't show up. What's wrong with that guy?
I don't know. I don't know. I know he had a poor childhood. That I guess he really never recovered. I don't know what else to think.
You can tell football is here, John. It's here. I don't think I've taken this headset off since 12 o'clock this afternoon, so we know football is here. It's a nice thing to have it back, I have to tell you. You kind of go through baseball season, and the calendar turns, so to speak, but when football gets here, that excitement, there's nothing like it. There's really nothing like it. There isn't.
And I'm feeling it now. This is an exhibition game tonight. But I'm running hot again in the NFL preseason. This will be 6 straight years, and I guess the composite of those 6 years is going to be somewhere around 64% because this year is 83. I almost feel like if I win this game tonight, I ought to just shut it down. Why take a chance of blowing a preseason record that's in the 80s? Because that's pretty much insane, and probably not doable again the following year.
It would be you'd have the same decision that Ted Williams was faced with when he was going to hit 400 and had a doubleheader that day, right? And he played and I forget got 5 hits or something that day and wound up hitting 406. So, but yeah, to your record and to the success of your 6 years in preseason, that is the answer to when many people say, "Oh, why do you even play preseason?" Because nobody knows what's going to happen in preseason. Well, nobody really knows what's going to happen at any point in time, but there are ways to attack the preseason that are profitable. And, for those who haven't ever tried to go through a preseason and make a couple of plays, there's worse things. There's worse things out there because information is always out there for preseason games.
Yep.
If you do it that way. And, of course, I know the models have a lot to do with the way you succeed at it, John. But it can be profit-making. So the myth that preseason is, for fools to throw their money out the window, that's further proof your 6-year record that it's just not true in a lot of instances.
Yeah, and you know what I found is that I'll make this comparison. We really would have difficult times in the NBA. You get your injury report update at 5:30, and we didn't even know who was playing. Mm-hmm. And I think that situation is worse than what the preseason is, because you can find teams like San Diego that I just talked about. They, to my knowledge, have not played a starter all year or all preseason. So now you know what they are. They're 2-0 without playing their starters. And now that those backup units, the 2 and 3 guys on the depth chart, have that chemistry. So Seattle has their wide receiver that they drafted in the first round. He was nicked up, I guess, in a practice, and he'll be making a start tonight, from what I understand. And Russell Wilson will be making his first start. But how can there be any chemistry between those two in a full speed NFL game? Preseason is preseason. But these guys, played at a pretty fast tempo. So I could be dead wrong on that call. But, I know the Eagles rested starters after the Super Bowl season in 2017. They didn't play hardly any starters under Peterson. And it didn't work out so well. They were playing rusty. They didn't. It just doesn't make sense to me that you would go the whole preseason and not play your first unit, at least for the reps. So. But in 2017, they did play the starters for all 4 games. First half. I'm not saying that's a direct correlation to winning the Super Bowl, but it got them off to a fast start. I think they were 5-1 to start.
Yeah, and this year's been different because the number of preseasons games went from 4 to 3. So coaches who are creatures of habit, all of a sudden their habit was disrupted on how they use their personnel each of the 4 weeks. And, we knew it coming in as handicappers. Some of these guys, again, it's the only time of season where a coach is going to lay his game plan out for you and tell you what they're going to do. Tonight Andy Reid says, I'm playing my starters for a full half. Well, Andy Reid's one of the very few. And Andy Reid has the Kansas City Chiefs, and you might say to yourself, what is he doing playing Pat Mahomes and everybody? But to your point, he played Pat Mahomes in that first team offense for a full half last week, and they didn't get enough done in his mind. They scored 10 points. And to him, the offense wasn't ready to go regular season. So we're going to do it again, and we're going to see if we can get it right tonight at home. So the philosophies of head coaches are different across all 32 teams. And the good news for us is that if you search hard enough, you're going to figure out what each one of these coaches wants to do. And from there, it's really why preseason line moves are so huge, John. You see a game, you wake up one morning, it's 1. You wake up the next morning, it's 5.5. Well, something happened. A coach said he's going to play everybody. The other coach said he's not going to play anybody. And then you get these huge line moves. And then from there, if you're not in early on that, it's your decision at 5.5 whether or not you want to play. But it's the type of info that's out there, whether you're playing sides or totals. And again, I think this year was different, and these coaches are in a feeling out process, so to speak. So at least what we learned this year from these guys, I think, can be applied next year. Now we'll know exactly how they want to approach each week. This week represents the final cut, right? Or maybe the final cut is next week, but it's the last time on field for a lot of these guys trying to make the squad. So second halves are probably going to be filled with third and fourth teamers or positional battles where they're trying to evaluate. But boy, if you can get a half out of a team full of starters as opposed to a team full of backups, got yourself a pretty nice situation. And vice versa, like you said about the Chargers, going to play nobody and still winning games. Kind of shows you, I'm saying too much here, but every time I talk, I get another point here. Yeah. It's important to note that when these second and third teamers are out there, and you should continue to watch the second half, because the NFL, inevitably, it's an injury-filled sport. And these backup units that are really good in the preseason, you want to make sure you know that in week 9 of the NFL season, that some of these teams have depth enough to survive. and one or two injuries isn't going to affect them the way it'll affect other teams. The Chargers, just by watching the first 2 weeks, seem to be a team that has built an awful lot of depth because, like you said, they're not playing anybody, and they're still holding teams to very few points, and they're winning games. It develops a little. It's a new coach there, Brandon Staley, right? A little bit of a winning culture, and I think you can, in our case, say that that's a pretty good backup second team unit for this LA Chargers. Lots of stuff you can learn here through these 3 weeks.
No question, and I think Staley is one of the better defensive minds in the business, and that's always kind of been their weakness. The Chargers have been able to score points in most of their, going back to Phil Rivers' career. It wasn't about the offense scoring enough points. It was about the defense giving up more than them. So I think I like what I see of the Chargers. I really do. And I looked at some of the film that's available. And there was one video I wanted to grab. I wanted to get permission from the guy, though. I think he's a new follower, and he's taking his own personal films at the Eagles training camp. And you should have seen, I don't know who was covering, I couldn't see the number. It was just a little bit too far away. But you should see the foot speed that Devontae Smith has. It's ridiculous. And I mean, he was mugged at the line of scrimmage. It would have been a flag immediately. And, literally within a second and a half, he's 5 yards past the guy. Yeah. So I kind of looked at that and I was saying, well, Jalen Hurts, 13 for 17, and 5 touchdown passes in that 7-on-7 drill. That was a full 11-11 with the Jets. And then he was 17 for 27, I guess, the day before. No picks and 2 touchdowns in that one. So maybe the Eagles won't be as. I bet you they're going to be fun to watch. Offensively, I bet you they're going to be a ton of fun to watch. It's just the middle of their defense is going to. It's going to have problems in coverage. Teams are going to get tight ends on those linebackers, and especially Atlanta week 1 with the guy they have now. That's going to be a terror. And that's really what I think the Eagles' weakness is in the middle of the field defensively, right down the seams. But Rob, I could be wrong.
Well, it was last year. Right? I mean, that linebacking core was picked on, and the secondary was hurt, so the whole back 7 was picked on. And if the rush, which was their asset, if the rush didn't get there, they're in trouble. But I remember the Rams with Jared Goff last year just running rollout pass, sprint out pass after sprint out pass, and just watching their tight ends beat these linebackers across the field on 8-9 yard drags and turning them into 20-yard gains. So they've got work to do where that's concerned. And it's, the point you bring up about Devontae Smith, and it's funny because casual fans will watch a game where, and just using your instance there, where the defense is in press coverage. Right, they're up on Devontae Smith on the line, and they want to get him in the first 5 yards. And if you don't get him, he's gone. You're not catching up unless you've got help over the top. And so maybe you see a game like that, and Devontae Smith burns that defense twice for long touchdowns, and you come back next week, man, and the team following plays softer coverage, and they lay off 7 yards, and they keep it in front, and they tackle. And if you're not aware of that stuff, you walk away thinking, well, what the heck just happened? Because I just saw this kid catch 2 70-yarders last week. Well, these defensive coordinators are not dumb by any stretch. They watch a tape. They look at their personnel. They assess what they can do best and what they can't do best, and then they, go into coverage that way. So Devontae Smith, a hell of a route runner, which is on his side. Yep. That's totally on his side. The kids that have come out of Alabama, Jerry Jeudy especially, and Devontae Smith, because Henry Ruggs and Jalen Waddle Hey, Jalen Waddle's a pretty good route runner too, but Ruggs is more a speed guy, just straight line speed. Run him deep. But these other kids, Judy and Devontae Smith, that can run the entire route tree. I don't care what coverage you're playing against these guys. They're tough to defend, and that's where they went wrong, I think, when they drafted Jalen Reagor. Because Jalen Reagor, after watching enough of him at TCU, dropped a lot of balls. TCU was a run-oriented offense. Teams didn't really pay a ton of attention as far as doubles are concerned with him, and he got deep on people. But as soon as you come to the NFL, you got to learn. You better be able to run every route. And Devontae Smith is ahead of the curve. I think he and Jalen Hurts, both being Alabama guys to begin with, but I would venture to say, if I had to put money on it, that they develop a real nice rapport this year, and Devontae Smith puts up, barring injury, puts up some pretty nice numbers for the Eagles.
Oh, I think so too. And I was starting to think, and maybe next week when we do the NFL show, we'll do some X's and O's, and show start teaching the different defenses. What is a bracket defense, or if you hear something on TV that what was that? And sometimes these guys they get pretty deep into the specific coverages, but I was thinking that exactly like you described. You try to jam Smith at the line of scrimmage, you're asking for trouble because he is slippery as you can imagine. Yeah, I really never saw an athlete be able to just it's like he's coated with Teflon in the film I've watched so far from spring or the preseason training. And it just doesn't seem like anybody can stick with him. And so if you try to jam him, that's probably not going to work. And if you jam him, even if you have the bracket help over the top, there's going to be that huge gap between that player at the line of scrimmage that failed to contain him and the safety having to come over, probably coming over out of I would think, I can't be a cover one. He wouldn't get there fast enough. It would have to be, cover two or more or quarters. So I think it's, and I do think Jalen Reagor is the X factor. And to your point, drop passes doesn't seem to be disciplined with the workout regime, for whatever reason. But his focus, his attention may get really, really good once he sees that he has man coverage every single time.
Yes.
And that's the unknown. I mean, he may end up, with stone hands and, dropping wide open passes. But if anybody throws a soft, arching, long ball, Jalen Hurts. We saw it in college, and I think we're going to see it more this year than any other time that he played last year. And last year, to be fair, I mean, arguably you could make a case as a starter, he should have been 2-2 instead of 1-3 because of the coaching decision that gave. I guess it gave Washington the NFC East divisional title. So. I think that the tone in Philly is a little bit overly negative, and for once they're not expecting anything. The fan base they're hoping, and it might be one of the healthiest preseasons I've seen for the Eagles and the fan base in quite some time. I mean, you don't hear fans saying I read one on Twitter. I get the whole Twitter feed of those 1,100 that I do for the sentiment. And one of the guys said that, we got to stop, criticizing the quarterback as being the scapegoat for losses. And we got to give Jalen Hurts the full season to play and then evaluate him. And I was like, this guy's an Eagles fan?
That's the way it's supposed to work, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. But, and the lack of enthusiasm before the season starts. I mean, obviously, if you match them up with Dallas, you'd rather have Dak Prescott than you would Jalen Hurts. You'd rather have their three receivers, C.D. Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael, I'm missing the kid from SMU's name now, but the third guy in, and their tight end. The Eagles' tight ends. But back to Reagor, I mean, this is where it's very comparable to baseball lineups, right, John? You get better talent and you start inserting better talent into spots in the lineup, and it protects or helps the guy in front. And the guy in front and behind all of a sudden, become better hitters because there's a better hitter in between them. And I think that's what happens with Rager here. It's not that he can't catch, because at TCU, the way Gary Patterson's offense is run, it's a lot of patterns run by Rager over the middle. But his concentration level and his focus sometimes leaves him, and that leads to the drops. But now that you have, last year I feel like he was one of the guys getting bulk of the wide receiver attention just because the wide receiving room wasn't strong. But again, when you add Devontae Smith, when you have Quez Watkins now playing the way he's playing, at Southern Miss, he was a terror. I don't think he got a good enough chance last year. And you have the tight ends who already draw attention. Dallas Goedert has to be accounted for. Zach Ertz, in a lot of instances, has to be accounted for. It just opens things up for a guy like Rager, who, if his focus and if his concentration or the physical attributes aren't in doubt, it's, we need you to make a play, go make a play. And Greg Ward, generally speaking, makes most of the plays for them, and I think Travis Fulgham made a bunch of plays for them too. So they've gotten better talent, which is only going to make these other guys better. I get that they're not, if you're in a fantasy draft, you're taking all the Cowboys guys before you're taking the Eagles guys. And the Redskins have the great defense, better than anybody else in that division. But doesn't mean Philly can't be competitive if things go right here. And I'm with you that Jalen Hurts should get himself a full season. And let's see. Yep. And this way the Eagles know next year we have to go get ourselves a quarterback or we have our quarterback, one or the other. But, back and forth with Joe Flacco, again, barring injury. I mean, if Hurts gets hurt, and Flacco has to play, he has to play. But you don't want to see Jalen Hurts getting jerked around because he has 5 bad series in a row. And you're out of the game now. You know what I mean? You want to see, just let him play it out. And we'll see. I mean, they're all great mysteries, all 32 of them as you head in, except for maybe, Tampa you would expect what you expect because they've got all 22 returning. But NFL football is a funny game. Inevitably, somebody always goes from last place to first place that you're not thinking of when the season starts. And then 8 weeks in, you're like, wow, these guys are pretty good. So we'll see who that somebody is.
It could almost be the 49ers in many ways. They weren't in last place, though. But, and the tight ends, too, with the Eagles, they're loaded there now. As you mentioned, Zach Ertz would be the starter. Then Goddard would be in the 2 tight end sets. Mm-hmm. And then they have Richard Rodgers. And then this new guy, Jack Stoll, is really turning heads. So, I mean, they really have 6 tight ends right now. And I think that's where they're going to have the problem of who they're going to take between Tyree Jackson, Jack Stoll, and Kerry Angeline. But I think they may actually have 4 tight ends on the team because I think Jack Stoll's fast enough to play special teams. And that's the number one way to make a NFL team is to be good enough to be on the special teams, the suicide squads.
Absolutely. And again, if that offensive line opens up some holes, and Miles Sanders is a heck of a back that really doesn't get a lot of hype. I mean, he's hurt a lot. He doesn't get, let's say, the carries of some of the better-known backs in the NFL, Derrick Henry and the likes, Alvin Kamara and the likes. But Miles Sanders, when healthy, it's just another thing that you have to worry about on the defensive side. And Miles Sanders, as a pass receiver, can be troublesome as well. So I guess back to our original point, as a defense, what are you going to focus on here? The Eagles have put together a lot of speed options that they can run out there. And since you already have to pay attention, because they generally, last year, their tight ends were like their number 1 options in the pass game. Yep. Throw to Goddard or Ertz, and now they're a little bit beyond that. So, we'll see what the defense brings. Maybe the Eagles become an over team because they're able to
Yeah.
score and they can't
Yep.
stop other teams. We don't always have to look at it from the side perspective. Totals get affected with teams like this as well. Numbers got to be right, but if the odds makers don't put them in the stratosphere the way they put some other teams, you may see the Eagles cashing a lot of over tickets.
I think you're right. I think you're definitely right. That's the way I'm thinking. Yep. And then, not that we want to talk about the Eagles all night, but imagine the creativity that they will have on offense, though. Maybe for the first time in a long, long time, maybe even better than the 2017 season. You got Jalen Reagor and Devontae Smith. Smith is obviously would be my choice to play slot because him lined up on if they have to bring a corner in from the sideline, then guys like Reagor and Greg Ward. I think you were talking about Michael Markin. Is that who you were thinking of, West Carolina, the wide receiver?
I didn't even
no.
No.
There was one name that you couldn't remember the last name, and I thought you said Michael somebody. And
well, I was talking about Travis Fulgham, the kid who came in for 17. Oh goodness gracious!
Yeah, Wisconsin, Green Bay.
But Travis Fulgham, who played at Old Dominion and was a real good wide receiver, he came in for. I mean, God, John, these names are slipping me now, but the guy they paid a lot of money to, the big wide receiver who's not with the team anymore, number 17, who dropped the ball against the Bears when they were driving late, star wide receiver, I can't remember now. But Fulgham came in when he was hurt and tore it up for about 8 or 9 games as their possession. You would call him more of a red zone threat even, right? Because he's got the height. He can high point footballs. He can pretty much seal up a cornerback in the end zone the way they do in the NBA, a post up. So they've got so many different things now, the Eagles, that they didn't have last year. It's hard to be a team that only has, you have a receiving core, but that receiving core has all the same ingredient. The Eagles have various ingredients now amongst their receiving core, including the back, including Miles Sanders, who on circle routes out of the backfield or screen passes, which they, used to like to run under Peterson. I don't know how many they'll run under Sirianni. I don't exactly know what his offensive play calling on this team is going to be like this year. We'll have to see that. But, boy, there's a lot of weaponry there. Like you say, the creativity could be endless with all that speed and all that ability.
Yep. I did see a film for what it's worth, but they were both Flacco and Hurts were throwing little flip passes along the line of scrimmage to a running back. So it's like a quick hitting screen pass, not even a bubble screen, but they practiced that for a while. And obviously Hurts has a much more accurate, stronger arm than Flacco, but Flacco is like 70 years old, I think. But you can't take anything away from him. He's a Super Bowl champion.
No, and those plays that you're describing, those are the types of college plays that are hitting the NFL now. The college game is devised offensively to get the ball to your best playmaker in space and let him go. Quick hitter style for a lot of those teams. And that's come to the NFL. And if you have those kinds of guys, I mean, one of those little slip screens to Reagor or Devontae Smith ran them at Alabama like crazy. And, of course, Reagor did too at TCU. But those are weapons. If you can get the right blocking, you got to get those guys out there and they got to make the blocks. But these guys will make their one guy miss. Inevitably they're assigned to make one guy miss. All you got to do is get by one guy. And, the Eagles have the offensive line and the tight end blocking ability to do some damage here. So
tight ends can seal off the edge in that type of play. Yeah, I mean, that's, they all have, I always remember, a lot of the coaches say this, but I always remember when I was younger, you got to have a hat on somebody.
Right.
If you don't have a hat on somebody, then you're not doing your job. But in this particular situation, if the Eagles do that, And granted, it's going to be hard to do consistently because it's the NFL and the speed factor is just ridiculous. But a guy like Devontae Smith will shoot through there untouched and be gone. And that's kind of what I hope happens and bring some good things, things to be happy about in the city of brotherly love.
Yeah, and the good news for a guy like Smith is, because they always tell you the speed at the next level is the real eye-opener for these rookies. Wow, this game is so much faster. But when you play in the SEC West and you play LSU corners and you play Auburn corners and you play Florida corners and Georgia and so on, those are all guys you see lined up across from you in the NFL. So he's got a good background in it. And Alshon Jeffrey was the guy I could not think of, John. But that's who Travis Fulgham came in for when Alshon Jeffrey was hurt. Yep. And he was a better player than Alshon Jeffrey at that point in time. Alshon Jeffrey's skills just diminished in a hurry with the Eagles. But you need one of those big guys, especially down in the red zone. The NFL games, I don't necessarily keep the number in college because I don't think it's important. Instead, in college, I keep numbers of touchdowns that are scored from outside the 25 for explosiveness. That's the way a statistic that means more to me in college football. But in the NFL, that game is won in the red zone. How many teams turn touchdowns into field goals? It's the difference between winning and losing half the time. Not to harp on one particular team, but the Atlanta Falcons with Matt Ryan, oh my goodness, they're a team that goes 20-20, and then, they march out their field goal kicker, and you're like, do you ever score touchdowns on this team, or do we just, drive the length of the field and kick field goals?
Pitts could be the difference maker. I'm not saying that they are a contender for the NFC title and getting back to the Super Bowl, but they're going to be a lot better because he's on the field, and that's the nightmare matchup that the Eagles are going to face in Week 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's the replacement for Julio Jones. It's a younger version of Julio Jones who, Julio Jones could have played the tight end spot, let's face it, but he was a wide receiver by trade. And this kid could play wide receiver. If they want to split him out, they'll split him out too. But that's their replacement. So Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts become the duo down there for Matt Ryan. And we'll see because
Ridley's a great route runner.
Yeah, he's from our area, John. He's a Philadelphia kid. I forget exactly where. I want to say West Philadelphia, and I can't remember the high school. But he is a Philadelphia kid, Kyle Pitts. And he played in high school against Micah Parsons, because Micah Parsons is also a area kid. And Micah Parsons, the linebacker that you see flying around for Dallas right now, the Penn State linebacker, actually was a running back in high school, which is why he can run a 4.3 5 at linebacker and has that speed. But he and Pitts were at rival schools, and I'm not sure that they played for a league or whatever championship, but they were. If they didn't, it was something, maybe a semifinal or something. So we got two area kids to root for here for sure.
Yeah, I looked up Parsons here. He's from Central Dauphin High School, which is in Harrisburg area, just suburbs. My mind is, it's Friday.
Kyle Pitts is from, he went to some academy, I think.
Oh. Archbishop Wood.
There you go. Yeah, I didn't.
So that's a big football program. For a long time. I mean, you probably know that name.
Now, those two schools crossed paths somewhere in there. So it would have to be en route to a state championship, I would think, because those two aren't in the same conference or anything. But, yeah, it's funny watching the two of them tease each other back and forth because I think Kyle Pitts' team came out on top. I saw an interview with the two of them, and Parsons was running back, and Pitts was giving him a little of the business because his defense, the team he played for, shut Parsons down that day. So a little friendly rivalry going on.
I'm actually trying to look it up here. That would have been 5 years ago.
Yeah, because they're both 3 years at least in college, right? They're both 3 years in college before coming out. So
Yeah, so that would be we're
put us
I
at
always I never
16.
get this right. So 2019, 18, 17.
Back in that area, yes, 17,
Yeah, let me
16.
just click
Something
on
like
this
that.
one and see. Well, that year we had Pine Richland against St. Joe's Prep in the 5A state championship. So let me go back and try one more. 2016 St. Joe's Prep against Central Catholic.
And the whole bracket probably not available to us, but somewhere in there.
I have the bracket.
Oh, you do? Okay. Is Dauphin in there?
Central Dauphin 10-1. They lost to Cumberland Valley in the first round that year. But Central Dauphin, I didn't say Central Dauphin East. There's Central Dauphin and there's Central Dauphin East. But I think I said that he was from Central Dauphin, right?
Yeah, that's
Right.
what you said. Yep.
Yep. And then Archbishop Wood is the other one. But these we might be looking at the wrong school size.
It might not be 5A, right?
Yep.
Might not be
that's
5A.
like the North Penns of the world are those. So let's try.
Yeah, Wood is
The
always
Central
a
Dauphin
power.
East was a 5. That's a 5. Now here's Archbishop Wood, and they won it in the 2017 season, and that was 5A. They played Gateway, which I think is out of Sewickley area in Pittsburgh, and then I see Harrisburg High School, but I don't see.
So 17 probably would put Kyle Pitts there, right? That would put him in at Florida 18, 19, and 20, and then into the NFL in 21, right? So his team must have won the whole thing.
Yeah, and they steamrolled it. They beat Simon Gratz. That's another historically strong school, especially in basketball.
That's where you hear it more often in basketball. Yeah.
Yep. They beat them 36-6. Then they played Wyoming Valley West, and they won 41-14.
Coasting.
And then they played Unionville, which is another perennial football power. They destroyed them 49-18. And then they won the championship game against Gateway 49-14. They were 12-1. Yeah, so that's got to be the year.
Well, now, and Unionville, if it's Chester County Unionville, that's right in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And Gateway, I think, is Pittsburgh. I could be wrong. Right near the Ohio border is what I recall. I could be dead wrong on that. It's just a memory.
Yeah, that's a great all-star game that they have too, right? The Pennsylvania-Ohio.
Big 33.
Yeah, that they play at the Hershey Football Stadium every year. That's a big deal.
And that's where these were played. The finals always played at the Hershey Park Stadium.
Yeah, that's it. That's a big game. I've actually been in Hershey Park, the amusement park, one time when it was game day for that big 33, and I really didn't know what was going on, and then I realized that they were playing that All-Star game, but a ton of talent comes out of that game, the Pennsylvania, Ohio area. Wow, a lot of talent.
Yeah, and a lot of it ends up at Ohio State, too, the really good ones. It's not like, I guess it's evening out between Penn State and Ohio State a little bit, but
yeah,
it's still a hard sell to go to Happy Valley, which is in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
But anyway, why don't we... I just got a message from Mr. Finn. He is picking up our other co-host, that Tony Mejia guy. I forgot, and I guess we all forgot that he was traveling today to the Las Vegas area, and I really hope Tony Finn's not picking him up at the airport because I don't think he makes it. Do you?
Well, he's already there because I was just on a 4 o'clock
good.
show, and I was talking to Ralph, and me and Ralph were on the show together, and Ralph was going to meet Tony. Tony was actually at the Circa while we were filming the show, signing up for the contest, and then Ralph left the show when we were finished and went to go meet. I guess they're all meeting up for drinks somewhere. So Finn is probably en route to that part of the festivities, the drinking part, which hopefully he's, there's enough tequila in the room for all, hopefully.
Those are the days I know that it's going to hurt the next day, and you just, it's a lot of fun while it's going on, but then you pay the price, but it's worth it. Once in a while for a lightweight like myself, I guess I could hang for a little bit. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I'm gonna fall asleep, and Tony's going to take me home, or he'll leave me there. And that's the problem. He'll probably forget that. Well, it would be a lot of fun to be out there today.
So here's the worst thing that could happen. I forgot I'm supposed to be on this Missouri radio show right now, and they're calling me.
All right.
So let me give the audience real quick. I'm going to do this real fast and get out, John.
Okay.
Because I know we want to do best bets. So let me go ahead and leave the viewers here with a best bet tonight on the Atlanta Braves. First 5 innings, minus a half a run. They are plus $1.15 at last check. It's Max Fried against Kevin Gausman. You want to make sure you get Fried in this instance. I don't really, if you only want to list Fried, that's fine too. But minus a half a run, plus $1.15. Gausman, we talked about him the other day being on the COVID IL. That was because of a reaction to a vaccination shot. Apparently, he's going to pitch tonight. We don't know how long. We don't know if he's 100%. He's throwing in humidity and heat. And the Giants are off of last couple of days were pretty grueling games against the Mets, both one-run decisions where the bullpen got used up a little bit. So Max Fried has been on fire lately. Go ahead and check his numbers. Last 21 innings, I think his ERA is 0.8 and his WHIP is 0.7. So we're going to play Max Fried here. We're getting a plus price with it, too. So you got to win by 1. Hopefully they're ahead after 5 innings by 1 run and cash in at a plus 115. And then I will wish you good luck, and thanks for having me again, and I'll get back with you on Monday.
You got it, man. Sounds
all right,
good.
buddy.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks, John. You too.
You got it. Okay. So I will do my final free pick here, too. And the golf has been interrupted by weather, so there's really nothing to update there. But I'm going to take 2 plays here. The Colts, I think they're down to -2 tonight, and I like them against Detroit, so we're going to write that one down along with Atlanta, the first 5. And then my second pick, just going to pull up the notes here real fast. We already have one with the Angels tonight from earlier in the show. That's on the slide presentation. And then we also have the Chargers tomorrow. That's another. And to review that, those are separate videos on the Predictive Playbook channel and the Free Sports Picks TV channel. So they're both growing pretty rapidly, and we really appreciate the support and the likes and subscribe and ring the bell and all that good stuff. So in terms of the baseball play here that I wanted to get is Cincinnati over Miami is my play tonight. So it's Wade Miley against Zach Thompson. Cincinnati is about a 140 favorite, -135 I'm seeing, so we'll call it Reds -135 full game. So we have Atlanta first 5, plus a half, plus 115 against Gausman. Colts, -2 or whatever that line is right now. And Reds, -135 tomorrow night. Colts, plus 5.5. 80% of your bet on the line, 20% on the money line. That's sprinkling the money line, as they say. And that's about it. So I'm going to be doing a couple videos over the weekend. Real fast, quick hitters. And be sure to start looking for the in-game tweets that I do. I can be found at John Ryan Sports and the number 1. And I will be doing in-game NFL and occasionally the in-game for college football this season. And that starts tomorrow. It starts tomorrow. Nebraska, Illinois. That was another one I gave out earlier this year or earlier this week with the under and then over the total in the Fresno State UConn game, which I gave out yesterday. So that recaps everything. And on behalf of myself, the Predictive Playbook, Rob Veno, Tony Finn, Tony Mejia, and all my gang of guys that are nice enough to make this show as great as it is, may all the wins be yours. Thanks again for listening.